I figured out 5 ways that you can quickly and easily solve case interview questions using ChatGPT. And believe it or not, ChatGPT will actually allow you to solve cases quicker and easier. When it comes to the case interview, there are really only 4 parts to the case interview. There's the opening, the structure, the analysis, and the recommendation. And within analysis, there are 4 types of analyses: brainstorming, exhibit reading, market sizing, and math. Where most candidates struggle and get rejected in the case interview is within 2 of these parts, which is the structuring and each of the parts of the analyses. So in this video, I'm gonna walk through how you can use ChatGPT to get better at the structuring and each part of the analysis. We're gonna start with the first thing, which is the structuring. All right, so now we're logged onto ChatGPT here. You'll notice that I have Plus, but I'm actually gonna be using the regular one, which is 3.5 instead of GPT-4. So that way, even if you don't have Plus, you'll be able to use the methods in this video to improve your case interview skills. A lot of candidates, when they interview with consulting firms, they struggle with the structuring and the analysis. So we'll start with the structuring first. So let's walk through that. So when it comes to using ChatGPT here, what I like to do is you have to give it a little bit of information about what you're doing. So for example, I could say something like, I'm preparing for case interviews at McKinsey, and I'm currently working on my structuring skills. Could you give me case prompts that I can practice structuring? So they'll generate some prompts. All right, so here you can see that ChatGPT has already generated us 7 prompts. So I'm gonna go ahead and do 2 things here. Is first, I recommend that you read through these prompts and figure out, is it at the level you wanna practice? Is it easier or harder? And we'll go through how to do this first. But let's, for example, like I read through this first one here, is a leading consumer goods is considering entering a new market. What factors should they consider before making a decision? Well, what I'll do then is I'll go ahead and structure this on my own. So I'll go ahead and, as if this was a case interview, take my time and structure it. And then if I wanted to know the answers, I might do something like this. All right, so you notice here that ChatGPT decides to give you a lot of items here. And you might notice, whoa, Davis, this is a lot of items here. And that's true, right? And not all of it is relevant. For example, ChatGPT is not a interviewer, so it has not interviewed with McKinsey, Bain, BCG, or these firms. So you notice certain things are not needed. Like for example, the introduction here is technically the opening here. But the frameworks, we will start for the market analysis and go all the way down here to the financial analysis, right? And you might think that, Davis, in structuring for case interviews, a lot of it is done in issue trees. So this is where you have to be able to actually exercise your own judgment and to be able to figure out what parts of your structure and how does it align with the answers. So you want to use your own answers and figure out what you missed. Like for example, if you were building out your structure and then you forgot to do the product analysis, you're like, I should have looked at the product analysis. That's an opportunity for you to be able to build your structures. And you do this repeatedly and you'll start to get patterns here. And the cool thing here is you can do this. So imagine, for example, you did all 7 of these prompts and you notice that what you're really struggling with is pharmaceutical companies here. So let's say that you were really good with the consumer goods, the fast food, the transportation, the telecom, and the retail, but not really good with the pharmaceutical. So then what you can do is tell ChatGPT here, it's like, I'm still having issues with pharmaceutical companies. And you can ask for it to give you more prompts. And then from there, you can do the same thing, right? You can kind of see how you can improve really quickly with your structuring by just focusing on this and then asking ChatGPT for the answers. So after you go through each of these, you can ask ChatGPT for the answers. For example, if I were to do number 3 here and I did through, you can go ahead and just get the answer. All right, so that's the first way that you can use ChatGPT for helping your case interviews, which is helping you improve your structuring. So the next thing we're gonna look at is the analysis. So as imagine, the analysis is broken down into 4 parts, and we're gonna talk about each of them. So the first one here is going to be brainstorming. So for brainstorming, let's say you're struggling with brainstorming, you can say, could you give me brainstorming prompts to practice? And you'll notice here that you'll be given a number of prompts. And I'm gonna give you a trick here, which is that you can look at the prompts and figure out, is it the level that you want? Is it too easy or too hard? So for example, let's say that I read through these and I realize that these are way too hard for me at the level. I'm not able to come up with a lot of ideas. So then what you can tell ChatGPT is I find these are hard. Could you? And you can kind of see here, you can adjust the levels to make it easier or harder. And similar to before, what you'll do is you'll brainstorm each of these out and ask for the answers. So for example, let's say I did the first one here. How can we improve employee productivity? And ChatGPT will automatically start spitting out a couple of answers here. And the good news is you can compare your list of what you came up with to what ChatGPT did. And you notice here in this case, ChatGPT gave out 6 answers. But let's imagine that you wanted more. So you could do something like this. Could you give me 6 more answers? And it'll come out with 6 more answers. You can continue to do this. And I find this is a really good way to train your brain about what did you miss in the brainstorming and how do you can improve it. So that's method number 2, right? Is you can use it to practice your brainstorming. By the way, if you're interested in working in management consulting or you have an interview coming up, my team and I would love to help you land your offer. So I'll include a link below if you're interested in booking a free strategy session with my team where we can walk through your unique situation and figure out how we can best help you land your offer. Now that we talked about brainstorming, the next analysis that comes up that people struggle with is the exhibit reading, which is when you get graphs and charts to be able to read. So here, what I like to do with ChatGPT, I like to ask it, what are the most common exhibits that I might see in a case interview? And then after ChatGPT spits out the common ones, I want you to go deeper into which one you're struggling with. So say, for example, that you're struggling with charts and graphs. Then what you can do is ask for it to give you examples of the most common graphs. For example, I might write something like this. What are the most common charts and graphs I should know about? And then it'll spit out a number of types of graphs that you should know. And the good news here is that if there's one that you don't know, you can also ask it how it would approach it. So for example, let's say that you go through this and you're like, what is a waterfall chart? Well, you'll have to Google what this looks like. But let's say that you Google what it looks like and you're like, I still don't know what this is and how to solve it. What you can do is you can type in this prompt here. How do I read and generate insights like a consultant from a waterfall chart? And then what ChatGPT will do is it'll walk you through how to look at a chart that's a waterfall. And you can do this for all the common types of exhibits. So let's say that you're practicing with a friend and you happen to come across an exhibit. And let's say that it's a bubble chart and you've never worked with a bubble chart before. What you can do is ask ChatGPT how it would work with a bubble chart. And that way you can improve your skills at reading charts, exhibits, and graphs. So that's the third way that you can use ChatGPT to help you solve cases faster and quicker. All right, so let's go on now to market sizing. So for market sizing, you might tell ChatGPT, for example, this prompt here. I want to improve my market sizing for interviews. Could you give me market sizing prompts with particular industries and without the answers? The second part is very important because you want it to give very specific industries, because if it doesn't, it'll let you pick the industry. And if you don't share it, and if you don't include without the answers, sometimes it will also give you the answers. So you want to make sure that you include the phrase without the answers. And let's say that I ask it. Let's see what happens here. So now what you do is you'll pick one of these and start market sizing it on your own to practice. But I will caveat you one thing, which is when you ask for the answer this time, I'll show you what to avoid, because ChatGPT is not perfect with this because it doesn't understand the dynamics of an actual case interview. There are some nuances. So for example, let's say that I take the second prompt here, which is the ride sharing. How many Uber or Lyft rides are taken in New York City each day? Then I might say something like, how would you market size? All right. So here, it lays out a pretty good reason for how you can walk through this. And you can do 2 things from here. One is you compare ChatGPT's answers to yours to figure out what did you miss, were your assumptions about right? And second thing that you can do is you can actually input your own answers and figure out how it would improve your answer. The one thing I mentioned earlier that you want to be able to avoid and to keep tabs on is that ChatGPT doesn't know that in a case interview, you're not given access to external information. It's all in your head or what the interviewer gives you. So for example, here, it'll be able to estimate the population of New York already if you didn't already know that. And it'll also make some assumptions here about where it gets certain information, like there are 2 million riders in New York City. But from this situation, what I want you to take away from this is the approach of how it would market size, like the steps, but not quite the numbers, because when you're in an actual case interview, you might not have access to the same numbers and you might not have access to the same public reports. Again, ChatGPT is great for being a thought partner, such as the logical steps, but not quite so much the actual numbers. So keep that in mind for the market sizing. All right, so that's method number 4. And the 5th way that you can use ChatGPT to help you solve cases faster and easier is to use it to improve your math skills. So a lot of people, when they start the case interview process or go through the interviews, they struggle with the math, myself included. So for example, when I was interviewing with McKinsey, one of the things that I struggled with was being able to convert fractions into percentages when it would have been easier to use a percentage versus a fraction. So for ChatGPT, I can use that to focus on the areas of math that I'm struggling with. So for example, let's say that I was still struggling with converting fractions into percentages. This is what I could do. I could ask ChatGPT to give me some examples of math problems that turn percentages to fractions, but it's important that you include this here without the answers. Now that you have the prompts, what I would do is solve 1 to 10. And then what you can do here is then you can ask for the answers. So now I say, and it'll give you the answers, and you can compare your answers to what's here on ChatGPT. And let's just say that you did these, but you still need more prompts. And you wanted the prompts to be harder this time. So you could do something like this. All right, and you can see here, you can continue to use ChatGPT as a math trainer to help you get the math skills. And if you apply all the techniques that we learned here, you'll be able to master case interviews a lot quicker and easier. But you're probably curious here, hey Davis, so now we worked on the structure and the analysis, but could you actually just use it as a practice partner from beginning to end and actually not practice cases live or with someone who has experience? Well, let's actually just ask ChatGPT itself. All right, here. So it looks like ChatGPT even admits here that it is not the best person to work with. In fact, it recommends working with a real person, and that the best person to practice case with would be someone who has experience in conducting case interviews and has successfully gone through the process themselves. All right, so there you have it. So you can use ChatGPT as a trainer, but not completely from end to end to practice a case. So you can practice on certain skills, but not the whole thing. But if you are curious about being able to practice the case interview from end to end with a real person, then I'd love to be able to help you. So here's just my 5 ways of how I was able to use ChatGPT to improve my case interview skills. If you have other methods that you're using or have questions, I'd love to be able to hear them in the comments below. If you post your way in the comments below, I'll reply back and everyone can benefit. By the way, if you're interested in becoming a management consultant, below this video, you'll find a link where you can book a free strategy session with me and my team, and we'll walk you through step by step what you need to do in order to land your dream consulting offer, whether it's at McKinsey, Bain, BCG, or another amazing consulting firm. And in fact, we've helped over 700 people land their dream consulting firm. And we do this at an 89.6% success rate. That means that 9 out of every 10 people who we work with land at least one offer, and many people land multiple offers. And if you're 100% serious about becoming a management consultant, I want you to be our next success story. I want you to hear from someone who actually went through the program. So I'll include that video somewhere above my head, so you can hear about their experience, about how they landed their dream consulting offer. And I'll see you in the next video.